The Sixers lost for the 10th time in their last 13 games.
Going downhill.
Man.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 76ers. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. What's up, Mitch? How you been, bruh?
Man, I'm good, Keith. I'm doing well. Hoping the 76ers can get well as well.
Yeah, I was about to help us. Hey, are you doing better than your 76ers?
Yeah, they struggling. Struggle is real.
Yeah, the struggle is real. Look, man, so the Sixers lost last night, 110-96 in Kyle Lowry's debut. Now, I'll be honest with you, Mitch. It was one of those games where Kyle Lowry looked good.
Yeah.
Good. We were concerned about it. Look, now, again, first game, he's been off for a while. The whole nine, but you saw the leadership, you saw a lot of other things. And Maxey looked like an all-star, but the Sixers got problems, man.
Yeah.
Major problems. And we got to dissect this one, bro. We really do. They got major problems. Like, you know, they couldn't stop. They couldn't get rebounds.
Yeah.
They got to a point they had to go small ball because the two centers were just manhandled, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, Kyle, more power to him, showed that not Philly toughness, but that North Philly toughness.
It's different, right?
Yeah, the brother went out there and got stitched up and then returned to the game to play. I mean, personally, I know a lot of people who probably would have quit at that point because they were getting boat raced at the time. And they like, look, man, we got a game tomorrow. I'll see y'all tomorrow. But he came back. But aside from that, Mitch, it was rough, bro. I mean, it was rough. They was down. They did come back. Now, I will say that. They did come back. But when you look at it, Tobias Harris struggled mightily.
Yeah.
Nico Batum had more fouls than assists and rebounds combined, right? It was a rough one, bro. It was a rough one.
Yeah, you know, you're not going to win too many games when your starting front court gives you 9 points, 12 boards, and doesn't block a single shot. You know, there was just, they looked like they were still on the like was still the All-Star break, you know. I mean, you're glad to see Nico Batum come back. But you know, I was looking at some of the numbers, and I didn't realize this, but between Batum, Paul Reed, and Tobias, you know, they played a combined 67 minutes and they grabbed one offensive rebound. You know, so when you're in a situation like that, and you know, you're facing a team that, you know, I mean, the Knicks have been struggling mostly because of the injuries they had. But that's going to be a good team, I think, towards the end of the season. But you know, you can't fall behind by 26. And just look as disjointed as they did early on in the game. You can't do that. And then expect the guy, I mean, every team makes a run, right? I mean, the 76ers made their run, and that coincided with, with Kyle being, with Kyle being out there. But, he took the elbow to the head and, like you said, he came back and toughed it out, represented the North Philly nation. But man, it's that it's the beginning of a tough stretch, and it just gets tougher moving forward. I did like what I saw from Kyle Lowry. He does look good on the point. He looks like he's 37, so you don't know what he's going to have left in the tank, but they're going to have to rely on him much more extensively. We'll see what Nick Nurse comes up with when DeAnthony comes back. We'll see what he comes, and what he starts doing. They'll get a little more depth. But yeah, last night it was just they just couldn't put it together. Kelly Oubre looked good, in spurts for them, being aggressive. Buddy Hield just seemed like the only shot he could make was a 3-pointer last night. You know what I mean? And they I know they're just getting pieces back. And obviously they're missing the guy who was the best player in the league for the first half of the season. But that guy's not there. That guy's not walking through that door anytime soon. So they're gonna have to get it together.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Like everybody keeps saying, I know they're missing pieces, right? Mm-hmm. And I get that. They are. They are missing DeAnthony Melton. They are missing Robert Covington. And they're missing the MVP. Right. They're missing the MVP. But here's the problem with this loss, the way it looked. Well, first of all, you would thought you were in New York, Mitch. I'm gonna just be honest. It was kind of like how the Sixers when they used to go down to the Washington Wizards. Dude, it was all New York. They was chanting. The Knicks fans was chanting MVP in the first quarter when Brunson was at the foul line. It was crazy. But look, I'm gonna say this. But I'm gonna say this. Let me say this. We can't use the excuse that they got their doors blown off because they were undermanned. Mm-hmm. Now, last I checked, the New York Knicks got 2 All-Stars. One of them didn't play.
Right.
Last I checked, the New York Knicks starting center didn't play. Last I checked, the New York Knicks made a blockbuster trade for OG Anunoby. He didn't play.
Yeah.
So the Sixers got boat raced by Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks backups.
Yeah.
So like when we say like DeAnthony Melton didn't play and Robert Covington didn't play and
grasping for straws.
We're grasping for straws, man. Like it was a bad loss. Now here's something else I'm gonna say too. Kyle Lowry is a 6-time All-Star, an Olympian, this and that. He was a major upgrade when he got in the game. Like he made stuff happen. So when you look at that, you're saying to yourself, like, okay, I get it, but this is a guy who hasn't played for a while. This is a guy that knows basketball. This is a guy that does this and that. But it was obvious that they're a much better team with him on the floor than with him not. And to me, you could look at it 2 ways. Like, okay, it's great we got Kyle, but you can look at it like, yo,
what else do we have?
What else do we have? Yeah. Like you got Maxey who can score and get buckets, but outside of Kyle, they had nothing, man. Outside of Kyle and Maxey. Like they didn't have anything. And the thing is, there's some people going to say, I'm not trying to start 2 small point guards. Well, yeah, Kyle's 6 foot, but DeAnthony Melton is only 6'2".
Yeah.
So you already got a small backcourt.
Yeah, and like they're going to need, and I do think Tobias. I mean, I hate saying. I mean, it looks like Tobias was still on the All-Star break. He's going to have to hit the reset button. He wasn't aggressive last night. Prior to the All-Star break, even though they were still losing, Paul Reed has stepped his game up. Mo Bamba was making contributions, but they got absolutely nothing from the middle last night. And, that's going to have to change. But you look at him, you look at the way Kyle Lowry did play, and you wonder to yourself, you're like, this is an old guy we're leaning on, man. This is a guy who's going to turn 38 pretty soon. And, granted, he's back in his hometown, but that only gets you so far. That only gets you so far. And like you said, you can make an argument that the Knicks at the trade deadline that they've done more to improve their team maybe than anybody in the league.
Yeah, they got 2 guys. They got 2 guys, but we also got to realize like this was a 4-5 game. Like the Knicks been struggling too because they had the injuries. So this was bad. This was like a bad wake up, dude. It was a bad wake up call. And another thing is, you can say that, but we can also say that the Sixers failed at the trade deadline to get a center. They failed at the trade deadline to get a center because Mo Bamba was unplayable after his first stint, and then they ended up having to bench Paul Reed too. So you can say small ball lineup, you can say whatever you want, but they got benched, and that's how they came back.
Yeah. It wasn't good, and they did sit still at the trade deadline. But right now, I want to talk to you, Keith, and folks out there listening. I want to talk to them about Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? You know, I've seen you in a number of them, Keith. That's what I get with Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new, on-trend favorites that will work for you. I mean, just think about it. You got your own personal stylist. You know, with me, I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want to and how I want to. No subscription required. And they send 5 just for me pieces plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and send back the rest. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/locked on. The stitchfix.com/locked on. Stitchfix.com locked on. Do it today, folks. Make sure you do it today.
Definitely do it today. Definitely do it today. But look, man. So we talked about Kyle. We got into it a little bit, just a little bit. I mean, and you know, I'm sorry, y'all, but I this is something now. Again, they playing a back-to-back. You know, tonight they play the Cleveland Cavaliers, who lost again. So Cleveland is going to be motivated to get off the snide, so to speak. But to me, I'm serious, man. I do think that Kyle. I mean, again, and I know we kept saying, I don't know what he's going to give. I don't know what he's going to do. But the passes that he was setting people up with. I mean, heck, Tobias Harris was struggling. He's the one who got him involved. Like, he did an alley-oop to Tobias, his first basket. Then all of a sudden, he hit him again later. Well, Belly Hill hit him. Then he passed the ball to him. He didn't get an assist on it, but he should have in the fourth, right? So he was the one that got him involved. Look, man, I'm just telling you, he's a point guard. A point guard. They don't have one. I mean, Maxey is a point guard, but he's more of a scoring point guard. What I mean by a point guard is like old school point guard. Before people say, "Oh no, what are you saying?" Like, no, I'm talking about a facilitator, the guy to get guys in the right spots. A guy, what he did was in the huddle saying, "No, we ain't running that play." Well, he tried to make it seem like he made a suggestion, but I heard that Maxey said he ain't running it. So when you talk about that, you need a floor leader, a general, a guy. He was like, "Yo, go over here, go there, do this, do that, do that." And it was his, he only practiced with him twice. So to me, the way this team looks right now, losing 10 of their last 13 games, and then how they got boat raced, they was getting boat raced until he came in the game, and how they pulled within 6 points, and then all of a sudden he goes out because he needs a break, and then the Knicks go on a 10-2 run, game over. Nah, bro. I think he got to play. I think he got to start. That's just my opinion.
Let's say it here and now. Keith Pompey is doing agent work for Kyle Lowry.
Yo, I want my money. I want my money.
You want that cut?
I would love somebody. Well, you know, through shucks, I take 1% of what he makes.
I mean, I hear that. I hear that. I mean, it's understandable because you know, there's two 76ers. It's prior to the injury and it's the present 76ers. And prior to the injury, even with Joel, they were playing faster than they played probably ever since Joel's been there. Now, you know, they're not scoring as much as they were. And you know, we do talk about the whole positionless basketball, but I think that you know, Kyle is, they're going to have to be more. The offense is going to get slower, I think. I think with him out there, he'll get guys in position. And I do think that from what I've seen from Nick Nurse this year, I do think that guys like Kelly Oubre, I don't. That was just last night was just a hard game. It seemed like guys were just getting to know each other again for the first time. Nico Batum was not giving them anything. Paul Reed, a lot of guys just didn't give them anything. I think that they'll get on pace. I think that was, I think that was a game that they just kind of need to get out of their system. Now, I say that and recognizing that the schedule's not going to get any easier. They're going through the crucible of their schedule right now. And Kyle Lowry is going to need to be out there. He's a guy who's got championship pedigree. He's a guy who, like you said, can get guys in the right places. But the bad thing about the Sixers right now, if you get these guys in the right places, when they get there, damn it, they got to execute, man. I mean, just the execution was bad. Again, I know Buddy Hield, he's been playing well. He was averaging about 22 points per game, as a 76er. I mean, last night, his shot just wasn't there. So he became basically a 3-point shooter. Maxey, Maxey had his 35, but it wasn't a 35 to me to really move the needle. And like you said, when Kyle Lowry was on the floor, that's when they made their run. That's when they made their run. And that's not lost on Nick Nurse. It's not lost on Nick Nurse, but they're just, you just can't have those efforts. Like, like you said, we can't talk about the 76ers injuries. Tobias Harris, no matter what you say, is one of the highest paid players in this league, and he just can't. The up and down. They needed him last night. That's a game against a team that conceivably they're battling for seeding, at least right now.
You better hope they don't play them in the playoffs, man. You better hope so. I mean, Joel Embiid does clean up a lot, but
we don't know if he's coming. We keep, man, there's this tenor out there that he's going to be there. Keith, you think that's going to be the case?
I mean, if they keep losing like this, nah. You ain't trying to come back and be a part of this. But I do think he'll come back. I do. Okay. I mean, because I don't know. I do. Like, it depends. Because
that's the only hope, man. I mean, that's the only hope for the season, the way I see it.
Yeah, man, it's bad. Now, here's the deal. Like we said, yeah, of course, if they play the Knicks, I don't see them. If they play the Knicks, it will probably be a 4-5 or a 3-6 matchup. That's what it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
And I don't see the Sixers winning. I don't.
Julius Randle back, and he comes back.
I mean,
yeah.
And then you got OG locking people down. Like, I just don't see it. I don't see it. And then you got Mitchell Robinson, the center, probably be back. Come on, man. So like that team was out 3 starters.
That's a good. I'm telling you, I hate to say it because it's New York, but that team. Be honest, man. That team. And the thing is, they haven't tuned Tibbs out yet. That's I mean that usually teams get to that point, but it's there are enough fresh faces on that roster where they haven't tuned him out. And,
look, man, here's a problem. Last night, they had Precious Achiuwa giving them the business.
Mm-hmm.
This dude had 18 points, 11 rebounds on 7 for 9 shooting. Right? I mean, Precious. Now, don't get me wrong. He's a quality player. Yeah, but it's a bad night when he having a showcase game against you. Like Josh Hart, normally when I see any other game, Josh Hart can play, but he's more of a defensive stopper. He had 18 points on 7 for 13 shooting, right? I mean, come on, man. And then Bogdanović, he was 6 for 6 on 3.
Yeah.
Just like layup line.
Yeah, I'm
saying, like, it wasn't a layup line, but he was hitting them like they were layups.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they and that's what happens. You go to that small ball, and team just had their way. Team is and you couldn't turn to your big men because your big men were AWOL last night.
Yep, it was a bad look. It was a bad look.
Yep. Right now, I want to bring people into what Locked On is doing. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon TV, Amazon Fire TV, in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channel app. And I also want to talk to folks about eBay. And we've been talking about eBay for a minute. Now, our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh picked out for us this week for eBay's guaranteed fit fantasy picks of the week. I'm going to go with Scoot Henderson. Nice, tough young boy. Scoot is now the Blazers' starting point guard for the rest of the season. There'll be inefficiency, but he needs to be rostered. So I think that that's who you should roll with. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows the championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. The same with your vehicle. So Keith, what's your dream ride? What's a memory of a car you love? I'm sure you can remember that. I've seen some of those fancy rides you've had.
Man, I drive hoopties.
Now you passed the hoopty stage, man. But with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, look at these prices. You're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Do it today, people. Do it today.
Definitely do it today. Definitely. Now, Mitch, so here's the deal. I got two things I want to talk to you about. So, I do a mailbag for the paper, and I do a question, a Q&A that I do once a week on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
But appears in the Philadelphia Inquirer. But in addition to that, I want to talk about one question I got. And the question was about the 76ers coach. Like, which coach would have got the Sixers out of the second round last season, right? And, and I get it. That in a way, I think the question was a sarcastic question for me to destroy Doc, right? So, but then the more I thought about it, and I wrote about it, I was like, I said to the guy, I said, look, man, Red Auerbach, Lenny Wilkins, Greg Popovich, and Phil Jackson would have had a hard time getting that team out of the second round last year. And in a way, and I get it, like some people want to talk about, if people want to talk about, like the whole series or the game 7, this and that, right? Well, the thing is, the reason why they wouldn't have got out of that second round is, now you might say, okay, well, would they have swept the Celtics? Nah, they wouldn't have swept the Celtics. Like, I'm talking about the other guys. They wouldn't have done that, right? And the reason why they wouldn't have done that is because it's hard to win when your two best players are struggling. And that's exactly what happened with Joel Embiid and James Harden, and a winner takes all game, right? So the future Hall of Famers were terrible. I mean, I'm not just saying bad.
They were wretched. Yeah.
They were putrid, right? Harden had 9 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds. Yeah. You want to say, what's wrong with that? Well, he made just 3 of 11 shots, including going 1 of 5 on 3-pointers. In the biggest game of the season, Harden looked like the game had passed him by.
Yeah.
The third, forget this now. He's 34 now, but he was 33 last year. He had more air balls, 3, than made baskets in the first half, 2. He also had no lift on his jumper and looked a step too slow. Harden shot 2 for 8 from the field and ended up with 6 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds in the first half. Now let's get to Joel. Joel,
do we have to? He was horrible.
He was horrible. Joel finished the game with 15 points on 5 for 18 shooting while missing all 4 of his 3-point attempts. He led the Sixers with 8 rebounds and 2 blocks, but he spent most of the game in the perimeter. The reigning MVP, who played with a sprained LCL, so I'm going to give him credit, looked fatigued. Now, there are going to be some people that say, but Pompey, that was game 7. This is a 7-game series. You know, what happened? And what my thing come back to that, my answer to that, my comeback is, okay, let's give James Harden credit for scoring 45 and 42 points to lead the Sixers to victory in game 1 and game 4, respectively, right?
Nobody had any expectations of him.
No expectations.
No expectations.
But look, this is what happened when they had expectations.
Yeah.
And I'm still amazed that James Harden failed to score in the fourth quarters of games 5, 6, and 7 on a combined 0 for 6 shooting in the series loss. So when we want to blame the coach,
nobody was coaching that. Yeah, that's a player's loss. That's a player's loss. You know, I mean, they completely rolled over in game 7, and this was after game 6 when Joel made me furious when he said after that loss, he said, "Who doesn't love game 7?" And my mindset was, y'all shouldn't love game 7 because you, as the underdogs and the lowest seeded team, had the opportunity to take the highest seeded team out in your building in game 6. And they just looked disengaged. And, you know, I don't think any coach, I mean, if you had, you could take any of those coaches, Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach, Larry Brown, you could put them in the coaching box and had the rest of those guys sitting on the bench, you know, as assistants. Pick a coach, any coach, and they weren't going to beat the Celtics last year. And I mean, the effort just wasn't there.
I mean, you can have a clone of Coach K, Dean Smith, Bill Walton. I mean, anybody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could have had anybody like Casey Jones. I mean, anybody, Pat Riley.
Yeah.
If your 2 best players, like I'm just saying, if the Lakers were playing and Magic Johnson and Kareem did what James Harden and what you call did, they would get both races. If Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and name whomever did what they did, they would have lost. Like if Dr. J and Moses Malone and Charles Barkley wasn't on those teams. But Andrew Toney and Mo Cheeks and Bobby Jones, or let's just say Dr. J and Moses, because they were the 2 best.
Yeah.
Come on, man. You win. Like, you just can't win. Like, so stop it, y'all. But listen, I want to say this real quick before we get ready to get out of here. I apologize for not breaking down tonight's game against the Cavs. All we need to know that this is going to be a revenge game for the Cavs. The Cavs are going to be hungry. We'll see what the Sixers can do. But to me, it's more about the Sixers than the Cavs. We already know what the Cavs are going to try to do. The Sixers got to try to find some defense and get better. And they're not going to be able to sneak up on the Cavs like they did last time. They're not.
Nah,
But
they're gonna have to come out. I think it's a must win for the Sixers. They got to get off this skid because Milwaukee's waiting in the wings.
Oh yeah, Doc is like, I'm ready. Y'all talking about I can't go? Like, well, I'm ready. But look, y'all, we want to thank y'all for listening. We want y'all to have a blessed day in the whole nine. But you need to know that thanks for making this your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Peace.
Have a good one, y'all.